Africa, Well, the YouTube link just shows to Facebook, right? I will.
Musoni yorobe kera kera wasiye 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 melatia kunusura wasiye wasiya anyogon ware dile masuro demusoni yorobe kera kera komuso dinkurani yorobe kera iko wasala anyekiseye wasitaye adawolo fana yu wasitaye ajekiseye wasitaye abolo kala fana ye wasitaye iyaye iye wasiye iyaye iye wasiye wasiye ne latia.
Angevayalwa yaye chwambwale nchu angevayalwa ocho mwele ocho.
Sofrer así, mandani,
kandifa ndikotongeva enju omwana mowe vakotongevavo.
Singing in the late 60s. All about Studio One by Bob Marley. Music went up, down and around. If someone remember Burning Spear. If someone remember. If someone remember Burning Spear. If someone remember, yeah. The music attention was in a different direction, not a burning direction. Spear been through his struggle with a lot of patience and discipline, never bow down. If someone remember Burning Spear. If someone remember, if someone remember Burning Spear, if someone remember, yeah. struggle like everyone, like the earlier musicians, blues musicians, jazz musicians, reggae musicians. I was going back and forth from St. Anne's to Kingston, 13 Brentford Road. Did someone remember Burning Spear? Did someone remember? Did someone remember Burning Spear? Did someone remember him? Many times I ain't got no bus fare, therefore I got to hitchhike a truck back. I am the stone that the builders refuse. I am the stone that the builders refuse. They put me aside, they pass me by, thinking I would cry. Stone don't cry, stone don't cry. Usually sit and kill and go beach, playing my congos and eating high times true. Did someone remember Burning Spear? Did someone remember? Did someone remember Burning Spear? Did someone remember him? The few soldiers that know me, they're either from Ruffles or Southwest. Talk about Keynote Beach. Did someone remember Burning Spear? Did someone remember? Did someone remember Burning Spear? Did someone remember him? Did someone remember Burning Spear? Did someone remember? Did someone remember Burning Spear? Did someone remember him? Did someone remember Burning Spear? Did someone remember? Did someone remember Burning Spear?
Nongelete punda otano wonena babo Yami bolo etandena na mwase mundende Na timbi wala bosinga bongo nyole yobami Mukutinde na dibe mwe na sikwala kemu Inawo Njemo epuri wana Inawo Njemo epuri wana Edouye mukele la mirila Edouye mukele la mirila ni mafeke Akanadila ni suntaro Fama alamu kwa fana matabila Kafoku mogo lela molu Fama
Kodise muna velone mawumando nene lambeju na jikeko silbato golbati edu beno Sango ina nu sango tunawo puli na 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 timbi wala mwaso mebula penyado lopudi ndena na dipe moye na sikwala kemuno ni sontila Nisomtila jamana kero kanadila Nisomtila Kalabanko rote Natibe moye na sikwata ise ndema Nisomtila
Oh, you just let me in. Okay, I'm good now.
Okay. See you soon.
Right, bye-bye. Okay.
One day now, one day now, one day now. La ilaha illallah, for musole banda. La ilaha illallah, for musole banda. Niña te jombala.
Good morning, Ross. Good morning, Russ. Anda, can you see me? Ah.
La ilaha illallah, formoso levanta, niña te jombala, sayala mumeke, daje te jombala, sayala mumeke, na fanta kasila oh, bintu bintu yela, oh na fanta kasila oh, bintu bintu yela, formoso levanta, kunongele yavo. Na 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 we na we na yamari yamari na patana na patana yamari yamari na patana na patana yamari yamari na patana na na panda kasila bintu bintu yela na panda kasila Sibidi-bidi, sibidi-bidi-day-day.
Musical Chautum Salaminum Malay.
Yan.
You're wrong.
Huh?
Salami.
Gusto ni Chan? Mas tulan. Andiyan magku. Andiyan magku. Makadami.
Salamat ta.
Hello, can you hear me?
We're about to start now.
I can't. Okay.
Cleo?
This
Cleo?
is Linda.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I can't get in. My
It's not letting me in.
Yes,
my
yes,
video is locked.
Mine too.
Same here.
My video is locked. I can't come in.
We just wanted our faces, please. Thank you.
Helena, my video
is locked. Mine is locked too.
Same here.
Whoever needs to unlock it.
Sorry, did you get in?
I'm granting you all. I'm granting you all the right to.
Come on, give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. Quick. Where's your email that I sent to you?
My emails are right there.
Did you find it?
I didn't see it. Don't worry, don't sweat it.
No, it's here. It's here.
You don't have to sweat it.
All right.
Okay, we'll fix it. We'll fix it.
Cleo, hello.
Yes, I am trying to still get in. It's still not coming in.
Yes.
Oh, there we are. Yes.
Here we
Hello.
go. You're here.
Yes.
Yay.
Did
Auntie Linda, did I grant you the right?
Yes.
Okay.
You able to enter? Can you see?
Okay, I'm in now.
Yes. Madam Moderator?
Okay, perfect.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay,
Good morning.
Linda, go ahead. Linda.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Peggy. Go now.
Go higher.
Him.
No, go higher.
Oh, I am waiting for Linda.
I'm
Linda?
right here. Good morning.
Okay, go ahead.
Good
Welcome.
morning and welcome. Welcome everybody from around the world. My name is Linda Powell, co-founder of Taste the Dream, Culture, Arts, and Beauty. Welcome everyone, wherever
Thank
you
you.
are. We're so happy that you're here to join us for our global virtual conference. We're so happy that each one of you took the time of your day just to listen to the issues that we have here in Africa and in America. I'd like to thank all of our guest hosts, all of our guest speakers, and each one of you. Helena and I met many years ago at a meeting, a conference almost like this. And at that conference, we just clicked and we made the decision that I'm from Washington, D.C. She is from Africa. We are one. And we together made the decision that we should record events. We should all be just to explore what we have in common. And this is why we started. So sit back. We're going to have music. We're going to have dance. We're going to have art. And you're going to meet some very interesting people. And you're also going to hear some awesome wisdom and just cultural events around the world. At this time, I'm going to introduce you to our moderator, Cleopatra Senkumba Isla, a Guyanese national and author of My Odyssey from Guyana to America via Africa, is the owner and co-founder of C&G Global Connections Travel, Cleopatra has worked with international development organizations for over 35 years, 15 of which she spent in Africa. The experience she gained while working in Guyana, Zambia, Canada, Cote d'Ivoire, and the USA, where she currently resides, has contributed to her enthusiasm for travel and the development of global connections through intercultural collaborations. Cleopatra believes that every test we go through gives us legitimacy to share our testimony. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Cleopatra Isla.
Thank you very much, Linda Powell, for that warm welcome. Again, I echo Linda's welcome. Welcome all of you. We are very excited about the second Pan-African conference that we're having today. And before we begin, I would like us to be ushered in the way that I think we should, and Helena feels that way too, with a word of prayer. And I would now like to introduce you to the G in C&G Global Connections Travel, and that happens to be my husband, Gerald Islar. He will now lead us in a word of prayer. Gerald?
Okay, if everyone can hear me, because I'm having issues with my video.
We can hear you.
That's fine, because I just got out of one Zoom meeting and coming into a new one. So anyway, let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this day.
You're live.
We thank you for the benefit of having this second session, Lord. We are so grateful that you've brought us in, and anyone under the sound of my voice, we have a lot to give you thanks for, because we're alive and well today. We continue to pray, Lord, that this meeting will be just as great as the first one when it comes to information and us learning more and more about Africa and what's going on there. Continue, Lord, to bless us in all that we do. Bless the presenters today. Bless those of us who are listening in. Open our minds, hearts, and ears to receive what you have for us today, Lord. And we pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Gerald. This is an awesome time that we have together. And all of this is the brainchild of Helena Makanen and her co-founder, Linda. And right now, I'd like to welcome Helena. Helena is going to be giving us a welcome speech.
We have the opening ceremony.
We have a dance, before we welcome Helena, I'm sorry.
Yes.
We have a dance troupe. This dance troupe is going to be giving us a ritual African dance. So at this moment, I'll ask our technician to give us that video to get us all in the spirit to proceed. Thank you.
Africa, that beautiful continent we all come from. Africa, we're beautiful people. I'm so proud to be an African, and I'm so proud to promote the culture and traditional heritage, the beauty of that continent.
Because sometimes it's very hard to get our own people in Africa to come to anything cultural. Because we come here sometimes, we caught up with American culture. We forget about where we come from. Now, this organization is all about Africa. It's always good to see your own people in the audience. A lot of times we see everybody else except the African. It's a great honor to be here.
Now, that was awesome for the 2016 Evening of Cultures. That was Can Quran West African Dance Company's colorful performance on that evening. The evening was hosted, of course, by Chase the Dream Culture, Chase the Dream Arts, Culture, Beauty. In Africa, dance is a means of marking the experiences of life, encouraging abundant crops, healing the soul and body, as well as for enjoyment. Ceremonial African dances have a purpose, often spiritual. Kankuran Dance Company was founded 36 years ago in the United States by Senegalese immigrant, Asane Conte. Thank you, Kankuran, for performing this age-old African tradition. Now, at this time, I have the pleasure, the distinct pleasure of introducing our founder, Helena Makanen, to give us a warm welcome. We've had a welcome already, but this is our official welcome to the second Pan-African Conference. Helena Tafara is an Ethiopian national and a prominent media professional with an experience that spans over 25 years. Helena started off her career as a TV news anchor and reporter, followed by serving at high-profile positions for government and private institutions, as well as managing her PR and advertising company, named after her late musician father, Tafara Mekonnen. A staunch advocate and promoter of arts and cultural heritage, Helena believes in chasing her dreams, no matter what comes her way. It is this very reason that led to the founding of her brainchild, Chase the Dream Culture, Arts and Beauty, in 2010, a few years after she moved to the US. Her organization's vision to showcase the rich history and culture of Africa by creating a global network to strengthen the ties between peoples of African descent in the diaspora with those in the continent. I now invite Helena Makanen, our visionary, to welcome all participants. Thank you, Helena. The room is yours.
Thank you very much, Cleo. Thank you very much, conference participants. Our dear keynote speaker, Professor Patrick Lumumba, founder of PLO Lumumba Foundation, distinguished conference participants, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to extend warm greetings and welcome each of you to the second global virtual Pan-African conference designed to discuss crucial global issues pertaining to peoples of African ancestry and motherland Africa. I'm pleased to note that the Pan-African Conference we hosted last week on August 1st, 2020 was quite productive and exceptional with an impressive list of participants. It has set a platform to debate on topical agendas such as racial injustice, escalation of police brutality against our African American sisters and brothers, the ever-growing influence in Africa, foreign influence in Africa, and ongoing exploitation of the continent's resources, social and psychological implications of colonialism and slavery that led to self-hate, degradation of our African identity, as well as our failure to unite and support each other, were core points raised during the discussion. The enthusiasm of conference participants was quite uplifting and a clear indication of the strong will of peoples of African ancestry to add their voice to matters concerning their mother continent. Our organization, Chase the Dream, Culture, Arts, and Beauty, was founded with a mission of promoting the intrinsic value of Afrocentric culture and arts, and thus bringing peoples of African ancestry to celebrate the rich history, tradition, music, and arts of the continent they all come from. Even though the coronavirus pandemic has halted our regular activities and barred us from hosting our annual Pan-African cultural extravaganza, Evening of Cultures, we decided to forge ahead, strengthening the connection through virtual forums like this, thanks to digital technology. Through this forum, we want to boost our existing relationship with organizations and individuals working to instill Pan-African sentiment. We want to use this forum to raise our voices in the call to end racial injustice in the United States and other parts of the world, and denounce the killing of Americans of African descent to police brutality. We are in support of the ongoing Pan-African movement in the motherland and elsewhere. It is an honor to have one of Africa's children, the acclaimed Pan-Africanist, Professor PLO Lumumba, whose vision to create a united Africa we highly support, is amongst us today to address our conference. Thank you for inspiring us, Professor Lumumba. As the African proverb goes, sticks in a bundle are unbreakable. It is only through strengthening our ties in and outside the continent and speak with one voice that we can see our Africa rise and shine. Before I conclude, I would like to thank the coordinators, CNG Global Connections Travel, and its founder, co-founder, our moderator, Miss Cleopatra Sinkamba Islar, and the young professionals who are the backbone for Chase the Dream's media wing, Mirjai Sahelu, the visual communications and media expert, and Linet Sahelu, the video editing and production head, as well as Daniel Taylor, and our DJ, Mesfin, for the entertainment part. Thank you, and I wish us a wonderful conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helena. What an inspiring welcome. At this time, our technician and we'll have an art show right now. And I think he's ready to cue it up for us to enjoy. So please go ahead, Leonette. very much. Now, at this time, I would like to explain to you what you saw. This was art by artist Nakazi. Her last name is Tafari, and she narrates about her roots embedded in her artwork, which includes oil paints, charcoal, and sculpture. Her hand-painted ceramic masks with indigenous hair implants of diverse natural materials are her trademarks. Nakazi is the daughter of the late Dr. Akael Tafari, a key figure in the Caribbean Pan-African movement, and served as Director of Commission of Pan-African Affairs. We will also now have a fashion segment that will showcase very popular African art. What colorful and wonderful art fabric. This fabric is known as Angelina print or dashiki, and it's inspired by one of the 468 rooted items from Magdala Palace in Ethiopia in 1868, which was the seat of the then Emperor Tewodros. The fabric's design was copied from the ceremonial dress, now at London's Albert and Victoria Museum, and is believed to have belonged to Emperor Tewodros' wife, his first wife actually, Teruwork. In 1960s America, this print started to become a symbol of Black pride. That's when the dashiki was very popular and still is today. In order to show the similarity between this very fabric with the Ethiopian embroidered traditional dresses known as tiff, we have added very few of these from the 2018 Evening of Cultures Pan-African Night. That was a wonderful celebration of cultures and still a very warm memory. At this point, I would like to introduce the president of Sisters for Sisters Network Incorporated. Her name is Peggy Morris. Sisters for Sisters Network Incorporated is an organization that was founded 20 years ago to create a platform for women to come together, to network, share experiences, and to form alliances with like-minded women. Collectively, though, through collaboration and partnering, these women share their visions and dreams and inspire each other. I now would like to introduce the president of Sisters for Sisters Network Incorporated, Ms. Peggy Morris, to deliver her note of commendation. Thank you, Peggy, and welcome. Please.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. What an honor and a pleasure to be here, to really see my sisters in spirit, Helena, my sister Linda, and my sister Cleopatra. What can I say? But it's a beautiful Saturday morning to be in the midst of beautiful people, my brothers and sisters. I just want to take a moment to just share the beauty of a relationship of building with women. It's been about almost 20 years that it came to my attention that we needed to form a platform for women to come together to share information, to share resources, to share what they're dealing with as women. And I'm fortunate enough to say that almost 20 years later, that has been our platform, and it has allowed us to venture out to experience other cultures. And I applaud you, Helena, for stepping up and forming Chase the Dream. And I sit here and I think about chasing the dream. We all are chasing dreams, dreams that we have taken that we could nurture, to cultivate, to share with others. So what I see today on this platform are simply amazing individuals. I sit here and I wait to hear from the outstanding speakers and the guests that you have today. And as I sit back and I reflected, when I was in college, my major was sociology, and I was always curious of different cultures, different types of food, different types of dress, fashions. And again, Helena and Linda, I applaud you for bringing that into our network to allow us to understand the cultures of our brothers and sisters. Again, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Peggy Morris, for your warm words of commendation. We really appreciate you being here with us and sharing with us.
Thank you.
At this time, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Patrick Otenyo Lumumba, also known as PLO Lumumba. Professor Lumumba is a professor of public law, holder of an LLD in law, an advocate of the High Courts of Kenya and Tanganyika, and a certified mediator. Professor Lumumba served as director of the defunct Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, KACC, now the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC. Widely known for his powerful speakings, expressing concern about the issue of African youth fleeing the continent, as well as energy crisis that African leaders have allowed to reach such a devastating stage, Professor PLO Lumumba is the founding trustee of the African Institute for Leaders and Leadership. Currently practicing law with Lumumba and Lumumba Advocates, Professor Lumumba coordinates the overall activities under the aegis of the PLO Lumumba Foundation in Nairobi, Kenya, of which he is the founder. It is now my distinct pleasure to present to you Professor PLO Lumumba. We welcome you and we look forward to listening and enjoying your message to us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me start by thanking you for organizing this conference and for inviting me to share my thoughts with you on a subject that is as topical as it is relevant, particularly at this time in the history of the continent. I know that the subject of our focus is Africa Arise, but there is a sense in which we must understand the history of Africa, even if time does not allow us to do so, because we live in a world where the conceptual West has inculcated in us the belief that Africa had no history until they came to the continent and started civilizing us. The Africa that I want to talk about is an Africa that existed before the advent of the Europeans and the Arabs. And one need only look at the early writings of Senegal's Cheikh Anta Diop to recognize that our continent was thriving before she was rudely interrupted. You will learn when you read Cheikh Anta Diop that the Dogon in Mali were already engaged in complex astronomy when the Europeans were living in caves. That the Monomotapa Empire, the Zulu Empire, the Benin empires were alive and well. But then our humility sometimes is our weakness. The Arabs came, we don't talk much about the Arabs as we should, but the Arabs started by invading the eastern coast of Africa. And many are the pains that they visited upon us. You do not see many Africans in the Arab world because their modus operandi was to castrate African men so that they could not have children with women in their harems. The Arabs did their thing. And then the Portuguese came along. And when they came along, you know what they did. They did it along the western coast, initially starting very innocently as trade. And as you move around the coast of Africa and go to places such as Elmina in Ghana or the Cape Coast, you will see the pain that was visited upon Africa through slavery. And it did not stop there. At that time, historians do actually estimate that nearly half of the population of the continent of Africa was taken away to work the land in the Caribbean and in what is now known as the United States of America. So Africa is a continent that has known slavery. And of course, conveniently, when the luster of slavery had disappeared, they pretended to abolish it. That is what the conceptualist does to us over the years. Then they introduced colonization. And the colonial project, Mwalimu Nyerere put it very well, that it has been the Lord of Africa, and he was figurative about it. Said that in Africa we say that when the elephants fight, the grass suffers. But he said, even when they make love, the grass still suffers. And he gave the example that when the European powers were meeting in Berlin in 1884 and 85 to partition Africa, they were making love to make Africa suffer. And the countries that we today call African countries, the 55 of them, are a product of that intercourse that was engaged in by the European powers in Berlin, in Germany. And of course, whenever they are fought, when they fought their tribal wars, in 1914 through to 1918, and in 1939 through to 1945, we were recruited in a war that was not ours. And Martin Luther, speaking from the words of Ralph Abernathy, said it very well, that Africans were made to laugh when there was nothing to laugh at, and that they were tickled even when they were tickled, there was no reason to laugh. There is a sense in which that is the continent that we now have, a continent which has had visited upon her pain. The only country that was not colonized, not for want of effort, is Abyssinia, which we now know as Ethiopia. But we know the attempts and the efforts that were made by the Italians. And we are therefore a people whose minds have been beaten over the years. We are people who have been made to believe that we had no history. We are people who have been abused. And that is how, therefore, I understood the words of a man that we must all read, the great Ghanaian, James Emmons Kwegyir Aggrey, otherwise referred to as Aggrey of Africa. He gave a speech several years ago in which he compared the continent of Africa to an eagle. The speech has been told and retold, but this is the version that I'll share with you. That there was once a poultry farmer, and that poultry farmer once went into the bush and caught an eagle, and that eagle, the chick of an eagle, and brought it back home, and he kept it together with his chicks, and lo and behold, as time went by, he fed them on chicken feed, but one day a naturalist came to his farm and said, I spy or spot amongst your chicken an eagle. But he said, no, it used to be an eagle, but we have fed it on chicken feed for so long that it has now lost its eaglehood and has acquired chickenhood. And the naturalist said, no, once you are an eagle, no matter how long they feed you on chicken feed, you can never, ever fail to regain your natural instinct. And he did an experiment, and the eagle flew, notwithstanding that it had lived with chicken and that it had been fed on chicken feed. I believe that our continent is that eagle. And there is a time when our continent, and the time is now, and indeed it started a little earlier, our continent is now beginning to sprout feathers. But the problem of Africa is one that is old, and her plight is one that has been stated and restated many times by those Africans in the mother continent and those who are in the diaspora. I remember so very distinctly the efforts of great Africans such as Marcus Garvey, who very early on started to realize that Africans had no space in that part of the world, and his efforts are recorded in history. I need not repeat them. He said that Africans have a duty to come back, and you remember the activities of Marcus Garvey and the efforts that he made. And it was not only Marcus Garvey at that time, Africans in the diaspora, whether they were in Jamaica or in Trinidad and Tobago or in the Bahamas, were working together to bring African people of African descent together. I remember the activities of people like George Padmore, the activities of people like W.E.B. Du Bois, and others who had a series of conferences culminating in the great conference that was held in 1945 in London, England, which became the breeding ground of the struggle for Africa to regain her independence from the chains of colonization. But it must be remembered that even when we were colonized, and this is critical, Africa did not go down without a fight. You will remember the famous Minons, otherwise called by the Europeans the Amazon women of Dahomey, now known as Benin, and how they resisted the French when they were trying to colonize them. You will remember the great exploits of Queen Zinga of the Ndongo of Matamba in Angola, who resisted the Portuguese. So Africa was always fighting. You will remember the fights of the Temne and the Mende in what is latter-day Sierra Leone. You will remember the great efforts of the people of Abyssinia or Ethiopia against the Italians. Africans were always resistant, but somehow we were subdued. And when we were subdued, there has always been this inner desire of the continent to rise again. And throughout the ages, we have seen Africans speaking about the need to unite. I remember, and you must remember jointly with me, in 1906, a young South African who was then a student at the University of Columbia delivered a speech, The Regeneration of Africa. That was the great South African Pixley Kaisaka Seme, who then in 1912 became one of the founders of the organization that led to the birth of the African National Congress in South Africa. And he himself was the president of the African National Congress between 1930 and 1937. When he gave that speech, which won him the award of the Orator of the Year, he said that Africa must unite, that Africans must have self-esteem, that it matters not where we are, whether you are in Barbuda, in Jamaica, in the United States of America, in Trinidad and Tobago, or you are in Accra, Ghana, or in Bangui, in the Central African Republic, we are all of one stock, and our safety demands that we speak with one voice. Because he was able to recognize that throughout history, the modus operandi of the colonizer and the neo-colonizer has always been to divide us. That is why when they sat in Berlin in 1884, they parceled out our continent into a French sphere of influence, and they called it Francophone. They carved another bit of it to the British, and they called it the Anglophone. They carved another to the Portuguese and called it the Lusophone. And of course, one can say that in the Sudan, there was also an Arabophone. And of course, the Belgians were there and the Germans were there until what they called the World War. And of course, we know that the Italians were there. So there was nobody who was not present of the European power. The Spaniards were there. And we don't talk about it as loudly as we ought to. Pain was visited upon Africa. King Leopold of the Belgians killed nearly 15 million Congolese, twice the number that Adolf Hitler killed among the Jews. But we don't talk about it. Until very recently, the pernicious regime of apartheid South Africa was alive and well. In South Africa, the Boers, and in what they named Rhodesia, and in Namibia. That is the Africa that I want to talk about. It is an Africa that has known pain and that continues to know pain, but it is an Africa that has refused to go down. And it's an Africa that will never go down. You know, in 1976, an African-American, Alex Haley, whom you know, wrote the story Roots. And he talked about a character called Kunta Kinte from Jufure village in what is now known as the Gambia, how he was taken away, Kunta Kinte, and how he was beaten, and how he was taken to the farmlands in the United States of America, and how he was told that he must lose out, he must change his name, and how he was beaten and he answered to the name Toby. But I remember so very distinctly, and the Liver Barton played the younger Kunta Kinte and John Amos, the older Kunta Kinte, and ultimately he said, although they call me Toby, my name is Kunta Kinte. I'm now telling us that for Africa to rise, you must find a Kunta Kinte in you. The Kunta Kinte must be seen as the residual being and self-esteem that never dies. And that is what I now begin to see when I walk across Africa, when I attend conferences such as these. I can now see Kunta Kinteism beginning to emerge and people beginning to embrace something that is different, because throughout the ages, the continent of Africa has always been punished in very painful ways. We have been punished. Our resources have been looted. When I watched the dresses that are on display, and I learned that the dress of King Trewodro's wife now resides at a museum in the United Kingdom. What do you call that in English? Theft. If you go to the museums of Europe, whether it is Le Louvre or the Guggenheim museums, they are populated with things that were stolen by the Europeans, but they don't call it theft. When they take it, they don't call it theft, but they are just thieves who have stolen our art. And they did not only steal our art, they have stolen many things. They have stolen and continue to steal our resources. In the words of Frantz Fanon, they have even stolen our very being. They have thingified us. They have turned us into things. They colonized us. But we woke up when on the 6th day of March, 1957, a country then known as Gold Coast regained our independence under the leadership of the Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah. He delivered a speech, and the Osagyefo said that the independence of Ghana means nothing if the other African countries are not independent. A year later, he organized a conference in Accra, Ghana in 1958 and said, we must unite as Africans because the colonizer is going to recolonize us again through subtle and subterranean means. They listened to him not. A year later, 2 years later, in Casablanca, Morocco in 1961, he repeated the same thing, let us unite for our own sake. But the neo-colonizer had started disorganizing Africa so that when on the 23rd through to the 25th days of May 1963, the Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia hosted the first African Organization of African Unity meeting in Addis Ababa. Kwame Nkrumah said, we must do two things today. We must come out of here united. We must have one army, one currency, and one nation. Otherwise, we will be punished. He was supported in that crusade by Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. He was supported by Ahmed Ben Bella of Algeria, and he was supported by Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt. But they listened to him not. And we ended up with a weak organization called the Organization of African Unity. That is the Africa that we are talking about, but it's an Africa that has always tried to regain her dignity. You will remember the many efforts to regain our dignity in the arts. In 1966 in Dakar, Senegal, through the efforts of the then president of Senegal, Leopold Sédar Senghor, and Aimé Césaire, inspired by W.E.B. Du Bois, there was the first festival of arts and culture in Dakar, Senegal, and African countries congregated. It did not end there. In 1977, there was another festival of arts and culture in Lagos, Nigeria, at the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa Square. Africa trying to discover herself in the arts. But that Africa has always known pain, because whenever she tries to unite, the erstwhile colonial powers try to destabilize her. So that even when we regained our independence, no sooner had we regained our independence than the forces and the machinations of the conceptual West were already kicked in. So that for the man for whom I am named, Patrice Emery Lumumba, Congo regains our independence in 1961, and within 9 months, they have killed him. In Togo, the same thing, within a few years, they have killed Sylvanus Olympio. In Mali, they have kicked out Modibo Keita. In Ghana, they have kicked out the Osagie Kwame Nkrumah. In Nigeria, they have kicked out Abubakar Tafawa Balewa and Nnamdi Azikiwe. And it goes on and on. Much later, we see how they punish leaders. They killed Thomas Sankara, they killed Samora Moises Machel, they killed many leaders. That is the continent that we are talking about. But she's a continent that never says die. And while the history is important, and while the lamentations are necessary, we cannot forever move forward if we use the reverse mirror as our only point of reference. The history is only a bedrock to demonstrate to us that we have a history, to demonstrate to us that we have a past, a rich past, to demonstrate to us that we are the mother continent, to demonstrate to us that our unity in diversity, to demonstrate to us and to remind us that we have been miseducated and that we've got to re-educate ourselves, to remind us that sometimes religion has been used adversely against us, to remind us that our minds have been brainwashed and that we've got to say with fella Anikula Pokuti, teacher, don't teach me nonsense. To say with Carter G. Woodson that the Negro or the black man has been miseducated for too long, and that going forward, we must re-educate ourselves. To remind ourselves that democracy is not Coca-Cola, which is manufactured out of Atlanta, Georgia, and is imposed on Africa as a one-size-fits-all. To remind the world that Hollywood is not what creates the arts, that we also have Bongowood and Nollywood and Riverwood. To remind them that when we say that black is beauty, we are not simply being romantic about it, we mean it. To remind them that our diversity is our greatness and that we are the fairest race on earth. We accommodate everybody, but we are abused by everybody. And that is why, as I speak to you today, I have no doubt in my mind that Africa is rising, not will rise, she is rising. You only need to walk across the continent of Africa, and we must tell our story. Our weakness is that we allow our story to be told by CNN. And CNN has a jaundiced view. She only sees the wrong things about Africa. The BBC has a jaundiced view. She only sees an Africa that has wars. They don't talk about wars in their backyard. Radio France International has a jaundiced view. Al Jazeera has a jaundiced view. We must tell our story because, as the saying goes, as long as the hunters tell the story, it is only the exploit of the hunters that will be made known to the world and not the bravery of the lion. We are the lion, they are the hunters. So this Africa, our Africa, what must we do about her going forward? We must do a number of things. We must begin to regain our self-esteem. We must tell them that we are not children of a lesser God. And we must not only tell them, we must act so as to demonstrate to them. It is the great Ghanaian or great Nigerian poet, Wole Soyinka, who said, a tiger does not shout about his tigritude. You walk the path of a tiger and you see the skeleton of an antelope and you know that some tigritude has been emanated there. So we must speak, but our actions must speak even louder. Unity is one of the things that we must talk about. But when we talk about unity, we are not being naive. We know that we are diverse. We ought to be united about the things that will improve the continent of Africa. And those things are already happening. Africa Agenda 2063 tells us that in the next 50 years, we will be perhaps the biggest economy in the world if we work at it. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area is going to bring down and make nonsense of the artificial boundaries created in Berlin in 1884. The African skies will be opened as was agreed in Yamoussoukro in Cote d'Ivoire. We are going to ensure that our women are at the center of our activities as was agreed in Maputo and Malabo. We are going to ensure that our health sectors are well funded as was agreed in Abuja. We are going to ensure that we have a single African passport as was agreed in Kigali in Rwanda. We are going to ensure that we trade more with each other as was agreed in Lagos in Nigeria. And we are going to agree that our men and women in the diaspora, wherever they are in the Caribbean, and there are over 300 million of them, are going to pull together with us so that our GDP combined of all African countries, which is only $3 trillion in the next 50 years, there is no reason why it should not be $20 trillion. It can be done. The Chinese have done it in our lifetime. They don't have the resources that we have, both natural and human. They don't. Look at a country like Nigeria, Ghana, and many others, Ethiopia. I need not count any of them. We are now getting into the arena of power generation. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, and I'm unhappy that there is a conflict about it between Egypt and Ethiopia and the Sudan, but I believe it will be resolved. Look at the power they are going to generate, 10,000 megawatts. Look at the Grand Inga Dam in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Africa will rise. Africa will rise so that we'll be able to make our own clothes. For a long time, under schemes such as AGOA, America makes our women to make jeans for them. Then they are brought to the United States of America. Then they are worn by men and women in the United States of America. And when they are tired of them, they send us what they have thrown as second-hand clothing. In future, we are not going to accept that. The textile factories that were dead in Kaduna are going to rise. We are going to wear shoes that are made in Ethiopia, not in Italy or in France. We are going to wear perfume, not made by Christian Dior or Yves Saint Laurent, but by our African women and African men. It can be done. We are not going to have Kellogg's on our breakfast tables. We are going to have something else. We are not going to export cocoa to Switzerland so that we buy Nestle. Now we are going to make it, and already it's being done in Togo and in Ghana. That Africa is rising. We are going to harness solar power. We are going to make our own cars. We are going to make our own mobile. And in the art, we are not going to watch Hollywood. Already Nollywood is generating movies. Riverwood is generating movies. Bongowood is generating movies. We are not going to talk about Harvard as the mecca of intellectual output. No. The University of Ahmadu Bello can do it. The University of Addis Ababa can do it. Sheikh Anta Diop University can do it. And many other universities. We are not going to wait for Roche to make medicine for us, or Johnson to make medicine for us, or Johns Hopkins University, or Oxford, or any one of them to make vaccines, which we do not know their content, to be used here in Africa. We are going to do it, and it's already happening. The Malagasy Institute of Applied Science is already doing it. Africa is going to rise, and indeed it is rising. And I must conclude, because conclude I must. When I now walk across Africa, I know that there are wars in Africa, there are conflicts in Africa, but I see good things. When I traveled to Kigali in Rwanda, and I know that 25 years ago our obituary was written, I know that it can be done. When I travel to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia and I see the expansion that is going there, despite a few political problems, I know that it can be done. When I see the railway from Addis Ababa to Djibouti, I know that it can be done. When I see the Grand Renaissance Dam, I know that it can be done. When I go to Tanzania and I see the infrastructure that is coming along, I know it can be done. When I go to Namibia and Botswana and I now see that they can cut their own diamond and they don't take it to Antwerp, I know that it can be done. When I go to Ghana and I see factories coming up in every district and I can see that they are doing their own things, I know that it can be done. When I see that the Ugandans have made a solar-powered bus, I know that it can be done. It will be done. And you who are out there in the diaspora, courtesy of COVID, we are now interacting with you a little more intimately. In a manner of speaking, the heavy knees of the Caucasians have been on our necks for too long. Like George Floyd, we have not been breathing for too long, but we are beginning to breathe. You know, there is a sense in which this continent, to use this biblical analogy, the David in us must now rise to defeat the Goliath in them. And I believe that history is on our side. Africa is rising. And it is you and me who must play our part. The late Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere of Tanzania used to say, it can be done. Play your part. It can be done. Play your part. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Professor Lumumba. What an inspiration, what a speech to get us all into the next segment. But before I do that, I'd like to tell everyone to please mute your phones until you are speaking, and also to let you know that we will have a segment where we will have a little show before our question and answer. So all your questions, you can get them ready, and we'll have everyone have 2 minutes to do their questions. And those who were here last week, please, one question per person as well. However, again, Professor Lumumba, we really appreciate what you shared with us today. And I know that a lot of us are going to go away with re-education and a lot of new knowledge. There's so much that we still have to learn, because as you know, those of us in the diaspora have been in different, what must I say? We have had different experiences. Some of us who have been lucky to go back to Africa, and I'm very grateful that I'm one of those who lived for 15 years in Africa. We have been able to re-educate along the way. So we are able to share with our fellow diaspora. So before we get into the next segment as well, I'd like to acknowledge our last week's keynote speaker, who is actually right next to you, Professor Lumumba, Dr. Hunt. Thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to hear what spirited discussion we'll have during the question and answer session. So at this moment, before we get into that segment, we are going to have a show of the Mali Kuba cloth from Congo, Kente from Ghana and Togo, as well as Tibeb and Tillet from Ethiopia. So here we go. amazing. Evening of Cultures. We're really missing that so much this year, but we'll be back next year. At this point, we're going to have one more exhibition. You see, last week, we had the artist Temteme. His artwork was very colorful and it was a little quick. So a lot of our conference participants inboxed us requesting more artists' work, more of his work. So we're going to have a little bit more of Temteme's colorful paintings. So let's go. Thank you very much. That was so colorful. Well, we've come to the point of our conference where we get the chance to discuss a lot of the issues and a lot of the information we have heard. We can ask questions. So I welcome a few of the participants who have already posted questions. The first person that asked to speak is Kedist. Kedist, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, please unmute your. Okay, we can't see you, Kedist. If you
know the video.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to see me.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Actually, I'm a big admirer of Professor Lumumba. I've been following his work such a long time without even he knows that. I have quoted you on a lot of research I do. And I think there is an echo, right?
Yes, we do have a terrible echo. I'm sorry.
Let me take it out.
We have 2 minutes. Okay. It's still bad. I'm so sorry, but would you like me to? I can ask you a question if you'd like me to do that.
I think it's better.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so sorry to waste all your time here.
No, that's okay.
I just want to say that first of all, hopefully you don't mind if I quote you here, and you have said that you do not respond to mosquito bites with a hammer. And after you said that, you also said third world is a state of mind until we change our attitude. As Africans, if there is a fourth, fifth, and even sixth word, we'll be in it. So you're telling us to protect ourselves from, I guess, stooping to that level. And my question for you is, you have spoken on several occasions about issue of Africa wherever you go. And you said young Africans are fleeing the continent and blame it on economic hardship, misgovernment from their leader. And my really question is, I want you to paraphrase on that. And is there such a thing called brain drain? And if a brain drain comes up, is this because of the mismanagement or the economic hardship? Thank you. And Helena, thank you so much for this time.
Thank you, Chris.
You want me to respond right away?
Yes, thank you, Professor Lumumba. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Let me answer the question by reminding her, number one, as we speak now, just to tell you how dire the situation is, nearly 5 million Zimbabweans are out of Zimbabwe, 3 million in South Africa. And the reason is simple. The government in that country has created an environment that is hostile to young people who want opportunities, even when you try. I remember I went to Vienna in Austria last year and I talked about this, and a lady who is a doctor from Zimbabwe in the audience stood and asked me, I hear you. I'm here. When I left Zimbabwe, my salary was the equivalent of 50 United States dollars, and I don't even get it regularly. I have children. Should I have remained in Zimbabwe? I said no. So there is a sense in which African leaders have also contributed to this. And right now, as I speak to you, part of our problem is domestic. Right now in Guinea, Alpha Condé, the president of Guinea, is contesting for the third time, has amended the constitution, is ignoring the population. In Mali, there have been street protests. In Cote d'Ivoire, President Alassane Ouattara is already contesting a third time. And these things where people, African politicians, create an environment where they can only be removed by force. We saw what happened in Zimbabwe is also delaying the rise of Africa. And I think that when one says, for example, when I said, if our state of mind, Luther King used to put it so very powerfully, the mind is the standard of the man. As a man or a woman thinketh, so he or she is. And if we think, take for example, the entire, people will say many things. One of the things that I hate, and I'm going to be vulgar about this, Europeans hate us so much and think that we are so bad and so poor that they send braziers and underwear, women's underwear to Africa to be worn by African women. And when President Kagame tried to stop it, President Trump said, I'm going to impose sanctions on you. This is who we are dealing with. So the mind is the standard of the man. Many Africans are now living in the diaspora. If you go to Nigeria, some of the best men and women from Nigeria are in different parts of the world, in every sector, in medicine, in Ghana. Some of our best men and women are in the diaspora. So what we call the brain drain, if we are now going to look at it differently, is now becoming brain gain. Because the truth be told, there are certain things that they have out there. Now the brains that we thought we lost are the brains that we are now gaining. You in the diaspora who are now looking towards the Mother Africa with the skills that you have acquired there, we are now gaining you. Ask the Ethiopians, and there are many, quite a number of them in this forum. Ask the Ethiopians what the Ethiopian diaspora have done to their countries. Amazing things, whether they are in the United States of America or in Sweden or in Denmark or in Finland. And I think that that is how we should look. And it is only the young Africans who are going to change Africa. I've seen it. The Arab Spring did not come from the top. It was a young man in the streets who made it happen. And throughout history, even when we were regaining our independence, it was young people in their 20s and 30s. These leaders, some of them who we see now as historical figures, how old were they? They were in their 20s and in their 30s when they are bringing monumental change in South Africa, when they were detaining Winnie Madikizela Mandela. How old was she? How old was Albertina Sisulu? If I talk about the women, we never talk about women as often as we should. How old were they? They were in their 20s and their 30s. So I have no doubt that it's our young men and women who are going to do it. And it will be done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Lumumba. Unfortunately, we have a few questions that we're going to have to ask you, and we're going to try to go through them very quickly. If you don't mind responding to as many as you can.
Yeah, I think we can take a couple and then I respond at once.
Pardon?
We can take a number of them.
Take as many of them. Okay. I think that's a good idea. I have here a question from Hawani. How can we devise an ingenious education system that includes the pro-colonial era, contextualize the trauma of direct and indirect subjugation, as the professor?
You want me to ask it?
Are you there? Yeah, I think you should, because it's, I'm looking at here and I'm not quite sure. Okay, go ahead,
thank
please.
you. So just quickly, I was asking about how can we indigenize education in Africa, because some of the things that you talked about was pre-colonial history in Africa is not included still in the African curriculum as a whole. That's one. Two, you also talked about indirect subjugation. And what I hear you say is, who owns the money directs the education in Africa. So how can we take power from, whether it's World Bank, UNICEF, UN, that indirectly still has a colonial mentality when they implement education or they fund education? And lastly, what you just said with the mind makes the human. We haven't invested as much as we should in early education in the continent of Africa, in the development of children, where who we are and how we think of our community is formed before age 6. And everything that you talk about, the implication that happens later on, the brain drain, really is in parcel of how we identify with who we are. So that is my question. Thank you so much. This was a very instructive.
Thank you very much, Hawani. I've got another question from Timmy. Timmy, are you there? No, I'm sorry. Navaye Yahaya. Timmy, you sent that question to me. Is that person there? Or probably that person is online. I'm going to read the question. What's done to bring our French-speaking brothers and sisters into the heart of Pan-Africanism? That's another question. Okay, I think Timmy sent me some other questions. Oh, Abede Kabede. Abede Kabede, are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, please, 2 minutes, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning.
Thank you very much, Professor. I'm also one of your admirers. I am a professor of physics here in the US.
Thank you.
Just one comment for all Africans here. There is an Ethiopian saying that says, a hasty hyena bites the horn first. You know, so bites the horn first. So, in my opinion, there have been many things that have been written about Africa and things like that. I don't believe that the problem is clearly defined. So we have to work on the problem. The other one is, I want you to comment on this. I believe education is a franchise. University education is a franchise. Who does it good will do good. So Physics 101 in Kenya and Physics 101 I'm teaching, they're all the same. So how do the Chinese learning Physics 101 are better than Africa? Or how does, for example, the English or the French are better than Africa? They still learn Physics 101. There is a problem, a structural problem right there.
Correct.
So we have adopted a colonial bureaucracy, a colonial higher education, but we didn't customize it, adapt it to our own interests. That's why I feel that we are a little behind everything. There was a speaker who said about this brain drain issue. Personally, I don't believe there is any brain drain. I think there is brain mismanagement. So we have to talk about that and how to manage the brain of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
So I can take those.
Yes, you can take those. Okay, go ahead, Professor.
Let me start with what the professor said, and I can't agree with him more. That really physics is physics, whether it's taught at the University of Addis Ababa or is taught at the University of Cape Town or Witwatersrand. Why is it then that with the same physics we are incapable of doing the things that the Chinese are doing, for example? And I've talked about this. Look at the entire infrastructure space across the continent of Africa. You find even on a Sunday, when I leave my office shortly, I'll be passing through a road under construction, and you'll find Chinese supervising Africans, and yet possibly African engineers are in some bar consuming alcohol. It is our attitude and the belief that we are incapable, and sometimes we simply go to school to acquire these qualifications without having the intention of deploying them for the general good. And you can see it. Look at a little country, and you, Professor, and others will know. Look, the little country Israel, and what she deploys in terms of what she patents in the technology space. And you compare that with the entire continent of Africa. I think Israel patents more than all African countries combined. Once again, it is, and you said it is this mismanagement. We have people in the political arena who think that research and development means nothing. So there is no allocation. You are an engineer or you are a physicist at a university in Africa, and you don't have any allocation for anything. Look at COVID-19. Everybody is now talking about research. We have 5 CDCs in Centers for Disease Control in Africa, with the main one in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Who is funding it? You'll discover it is some Europeans who are doing it. And that, I think, is our tragedy. And African Union is now saying that we must fund our things. We must allocate portions of our budget. You who is in the United States, if you chose to come to Africa, you'll be so thoroughly frustrated. You would not even have the equipment to do what you want to do. And it is because those who have the honor and privilege of serving in the political space have no idea that science and development and research and development is what underwrites real growth. So I can't agree with you more. And of course, you've used the term brain mismanagement. I personally call it brain gain, because the information and the knowledge that you have acquired now can be deployed for the benefit of the continent of Africa. And I can't agree with you more. Part of our problem is also self-esteem. I remember at one time, I'm sitting in Arusha, and there is a young man, a young white man, and he's been sent by the World Bank. And everybody was very harsh with him. And I went and saw him during the tea break, and he told me, I did not know that the people I was going to meet at this conference are such seasoned people. Yet the World Bank sends a neophyte, a young graduate, to come and talk to professors at a conference, and you see professors listening gleefully. Because we Africans still tremble when we see the white skin. We bow and tremble. Low self-esteem. The second question is the French. One of the worst colonizers of all colonizers are bad. But if you want to talk about, if you want to rank them, the worst are possibly I think the worst are the Portuguese. But the French are terrible because they worked on their colonizers' minds, their process of assimilation, so that If you listen to some of our brothers and sisters from the former French colony, they think they are French. They even say their ancestors are the Gauls. They used to make students sing at African school parades every morning, our ancestors, the Gauls. So you are Wolof in Senegal, or you are Dogon in Mali, and you are being told our ancestors are the Gauls. And they have worked on you so much that they have made you go to the University of Sorbonne. And when you want to become a leader, they make you a deputy in the French parliament, then they deploy you back in Africa. So you think that your country is actually a province of France, but we are working at it. I'm meeting, my own foundation is now present in almost all former French colonies and former Portuguese colonies, and there are younger people who are now going to saying this cannot wash, but the French will not stop. If the French stop exploiting their former colonies within 50 years, it will be a third world country if we'll still be using such terms. So it's work in progress, and I think that it's something that we must work at. The lady has talked about education. Right now, in many African countries, I think it is happening in Ethiopia, in Kenya, in Uganda, there is a talk about early childhood education, competency-based. And it is happening because we now recognize that those early years are very critical. The whole idea of free basic education is now beginning to take root. And I think that that is important. It is important, and we must work at it, because education is indeed the game changer in many ways. Many of you who are present in this forum, but for education, where would you be? But for education. So that is how useful education is. But the foreign powers will always work at destroying African institutions. I'm going to the second limb of the question about the indirect subjugation. Look at the African Union today. The African Union is funded largely by the Chinese. The Germans also have something. I've seen even during this COVID, the European Union has given some little pittance to the African Union. And once they do that, they control your agenda. I've seen a very large dossier which has been written by the World Bank about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. They are once again making themselves the authority in that area. Recently, when we had the election of the Director General of the African Development Bank, Kinwumi Adesina, the United States of America objected to his re-election because African Development Bank has 81 members, shareholders, including Ireland, including the United States. And I was telling a friend of mine, we should say that this is an African bank. You in the diaspora, if you organize yourselves, can't you raise $3 billion and be shareholders in the African Development Bank and therefore fund our infrastructure? Because it is still true, he who pays the piper calls the tune. And I am of the considered view that a number of African leaders are now beginning to wake up. And I'll mention 3 African leaders who have come out quite strongly. Last week, President Paul Kagame of Rwanda expelled 18 Chinese. He told them, we may be poor, but we have our dignity. You can't come here and behave as if we are lesser human beings. And they are doing things. They are telling the people, they are now assembling the Volkswagen car and say, yes, we'll allow you to assemble because science is no respecter of boundaries, but transfer of technology after 10 years. John Joseph Pombe Magufuli of Tanzania gets into office, finds the Chinese have signed a contract. He canceled the contract. He says, nonsense. This is the kind of contract that only madmen and fools can sign. There are better things in the market. He signed with the tax, and they are now building it at 1/3 of the cost. Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo of Ghana, the same thing. So you can begin to see that there is a group of Africans, and is also in the business world, We are talking about leadership in the political arena, but there is also leadership in critical areas in different disciplines. The Malagasy Institute of Applied Science came up with COVID organic, and the West is not talking about it because they don't want any cure for COVID to come out of Africa. The Louis Pasteur Institute in Dakar, Senegal, has come up with fast testing kits, which they are selling to other African countries. So I think that something is happening. But what, as I said a little earlier, CNN is happy when locusts are invading Ethiopia and Kenya. That's what they report, how we are eating locusts, not how we are making COVID organic.
Mm-hmm. That is some very interesting responses, very educational responses to those questions, Professor Lumumba. I have here another question. Is there any program to encourage Africans in the diaspora to visit the continent? Now, before I turn that question over to you, Professor Lumumba, as you know, I am speaking from a travel professional perspective, and I do encourage the diaspora to visit Africa. I lived there for 15 years, and I've done tours with avid travelers in the diaspora to Africa, and that we will talk about at the end of the session. But do you have any idea of any programs that you are familiar with that will encourage this return of the diaspora to Africa?
Number one, I know that a lady friend of mine, Dr. Arikana Chihombori Kwao, who is resident in the United States, has founded an organization called the African Diaspora Institute, in which I serve as the African representative, and we have held several virtual meetings. It will be launched later this year. And the idea is to canalize the efforts of people in the diaspora. And I'm saying this aware that there are quite a number of diaspora organizations. So the whole idea is to be coordinated. Those in Europe, those in the Caribbean, those in the United States of America, and other parts, even in Latin America. In fact, COVID has now made people look for each other. I mean, I'm meeting people from Belize, virtually. I'm meeting people from Brazil. That is the terrible beauty of COVID-19, that out of our womb, we are now beginning to see this camaraderie, which was not there before. And to answer your question, therefore, I know of the Ghanaian program, the Year of Return. So I know of the Nigerian program. In fact, just before this, I was in a webinar with the Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yenyo Simbanjo. And Nigeria is doing that. We are raising, actually, we have written to President George Weah of Liberia, because Liberia, as you remember, was the country that was initially identified by the United States of America during the presidency of President Monroe for the Year of Return. So Liberia is doing that. We are trying to talk to President Embalo of Guinea-Bissau to also allow this. So we are not just talking about it. Some of us are now very actively engaging governments and telling them, our kith and kin out there, we are not telling you to relocate. No. The United States of America is yours. You are there before the Caucasian. That is also ours. But the mothership is here. So we believe that beyond this webinar, we are going to have meaningful and long-term relations as we engage government. And that is why it's very important to work within existing structures and improve them. If we lose that, then we are going to be in a constant conflictual relationship. So I've mentioned Ghana, I've mentioned Nigeria, I've mentioned Liberia, I've mentioned Guinea-Bissau, and one of the things that has also happened is that the African Union has also recognized the diaspora as the 6th region of the African Union. So I know of these programs, and I know that outside of this forum, we can then engage a lot more intimately as we put these matters into action. It is happening.
Wonderful. I just saw another question roll up here. Someone is asking, speaking of youth in the current political change in Ethiopia, the youth plays a great role, but they are now manipulated, the veteran politicians, as they are against their past. They are denying their history. What's your take on this? This is an online question. It's not in the room, so I can't ask the person to speak directly to you. I hope you're able to speak to this.
There are no easy answers. It's very easy to be prescriptive, but some of these environments are very nuanced. I'm one of the great supporters of Prime Minister Abiy, but I'm also conscious of the problems that he is facing domestically. I think he means well, he's right, his heart is in the right place. But you remember that when you are trying to bring about change, the old guard, the ancient regime is not normally happy because you are actually upsetting the apple cart. So it is going to be resistance at every stage. And I believe that younger people, and the young person who has asked this question must be one of the young people who can see a good thing happening in Ethiopia, and he knows the problem that is confronting the administration of President Abiy, and he needs to be supported. He will be resisted. Resistance is part of this game, particularly when you are bringing fundamental change too quickly. They'll say, why are you changing the environment? And I think it is not going to be easy. It is easy from an armchair position when you are not in the environment to be prescriptive, but I think that there is a case. And younger people, I'm one who supports something that I call co-generational leadership. In other words, you don't jettison the older people, you need the experience, but the older people must also make a deliberate effort to ensure that they hold the hands of young men and women so that they learn the ropes. As they say in my mother tongue, when mother cow is chewing, baby cow is watching. And in that way, she learns how to chew. And I think that those are the things that must be done deliberately. And some of us, and I know quite a number of people who are doing this across the continent. I'm one of them. We are now present in 38 African countries, and we are talking to young people, and young people are coming up, and I tell them that when you are talking to people in power, do so with the firmness that opens their eyes, not with the arrogance that arouses their anger until it becomes necessary. And if you do so, you will begin to change processes. I think that is happening. It's not going to be easy. It is not for the faint-hearted.
That's right. Self-esteem and uniting across the diaspora with the continent of Africa is the goal of this conference. Is there anyone right now who has got a question? Because we are going to get into the last phase. Okay, Gedson, can you unmute your mic, please?
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. Professor Lumumba, it's a very inspiring speech. I thank you very much. And the question previously, you answered previously was my question. And I want to ask you on that question, because you didn't give me the right answer. In Ethiopia, the youth are now going in a wrong direction because they are manipulated by the veteran politicians, and they are fighting for their ethnicity, for their ethnic right, not for the national right. So by destroying individual countries in Africa, how can we bring the United Nations of Africa, the bigger picture of Africa? We are dying. We are fighting for our ethnic group, for our, individual ethnic rights. So the youth in Africa are going in a wrong direction, and they are manipulated by intellectuals who are coming from the Western countries, from America, from elsewhere. So the youth in Africa considered people who came from outside are, godlike. They do whatever they told them to do. So how can we fight this problem?
Let me now answer your question directly. When you made your 1984 constitution after Meles Zenawi came into power, one of the things, as you know, that he recognized was to create this federation with ethnic groups and even with the right to secede. Yeah. And you know that the Tigray area, the Tigrinya, you know, the Amhara problem and the Oromo problem. The Shenan's resignation, I may be wrong, but was informed by the realization that the Oromo were unhappy. And therefore bring in Abiy, who is an Oromo, and you think you have sorted out the problem, but it appears you have not. And I'm not talking about the Somali problem. So there are people, and some of them are within Ethiopia, some of them are outside of the Ethiopia, who have very narrow thoughts. They think that creating an Oromo republic is what is going to solve the problem. There are those who are from Tigray, the Tigrinya, who think that that is what should happen. There are those who are from Amhara, who think that that is what will happen. There are those from Ogaden, the Somalis, who think that that is stupid thinking, and you know it. So what can you do? My own view is the anger that you have, you who are enlightened and know that unity must be in diversity, are the ones who must send a clear message so that you expose this individual. The reasons why we are crusading across Africa and across different countries and sending this message is because we believe that the word can change. And history has demonstrated that word changes people. If you are in the United States of America, what instrument did Martin Luther King Jr., what instrument did Ralph Abernathy, what instrument did Malcolm X and all these other good people use? It is the word. And when you use the word, some will pay the ultimate price. Unfortunately, some will. But if you are convicted, you must do something. I went about 2 years ago in Zambia, and when I arrived at the airport, the people I instructed, the president of the Zambia instructed security forces that I should not be allowed to go into Zambia. And I was stopped and turned back because they thought that I was speaking against his government and against the Chinese. These are prices that we must pay. So don't despair. Okay. Use your position to spread the good message, particularly in these times when you have the social media. Use it to good effect, and you will be abused. When you are doing the right thing, if you are praised, be surprised. Be surprised. Be surprised.
Thank you. I know our host would like to ask a question, but I'd like to combine her question with another one so that we can save on time. Jennifer is asking, is anyone working to create a central bank of Africa? I know we have the African Development Bank, and that's in Cote d'Ivoire. They want to know if there's a central bank of Africa which the diaspora can invest. And you did speak to that before, Professor Lumumba.
Yes.
African nations can then apply for funds to develop projects in their nation. Then there's one other question here. Can African leaders embrace Pan-Africanism fully when they are not capable of resolving ethnic conflicts in their own countries? Now that added to
I think those are the last two questions.
Yes. Okay. I know you have another appointment, I heard.
Yes.
So please, if you could address
let me answer the first one last.
Okay. Helena?
Unity is not an easy thing.
Okay.
It is not for the faint-hearted. There are people who are big fish in small ponds, and they would want to remain big fish in small ponds. If you tell them that there will be a bigger Africa, they cannot fit in Africa. So they will fight for their personal benefit. The neo-colonizer, the imperialists, will also tell them, no, you would be swallowed by, I'm quite certain, for example, if the French are speaking to the Beninois or to the Togolese, they are telling them, please, Nigeria will swallow you. Ghana will swallow you. They call them to Paris. So if you go to many of these countries, some of these conflicts are manufactured from outside, manufactured with contracted mercenaries, because there is also the sale of arms, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So it takes great enlightenment. And there are such leaders in Africa who are enlightened, who are doing the right thing. And that is why they are being fought. And my own view is that we should not give up. The ethnic question is there, and I'm not saying that we abolish ethnicities. No, I'm saying that ethnicities are a cultural mosaic. If you go to Nigeria, I see the beauty of the Yoruba, the Igbo, the Hausa, Fulani. I see the beauty of the Fulfulde language, and it can be done. Switzerland, which is a little country in Europe, had a problem like that. The French-speaking, the German-speaking, the Romance-speaking, and they decided to create a confederacy, which works. It's a small country, but it tells you in microcosm how a bigger Africa can work. So I am of the view that these narrow-minded politicians who are intellectually and philosophically bankrupt, they are the ones who clutch on religion, and they are the ones who clutch on ethnicity as the mother's milk of their misguided politics. But they will be beaten. They'll be beaten because there is a force that is fighting against that kind of narrow-mindedness. The first question was about a bank. I know a friend of mine called Rosenthal. He's actually an African-American, and he's been traveling across the continent. During this COVID, he was actually caught up in Yaoundé, in Cameroon. And he has been talking to African presidents to create a bank which will be, the currency which will be backed by bullion, the gold bullion. So efforts are being made. Efforts are being made. I mean, the beauty of Africa now, even as I look at it and I think about COVID, is there is so much activity in terms of trying to create a united Africa. Look at the ECO, which was going to be created by the 14 West African countries and was hijacked by the French. The ECO that you talk about, that President Macron persuaded President Alassane Ouattara of Cote d'Ivoire, and they now said, what we used to call CFA, let's call it ECO. It tells you that the colonizer is frightened. They are frightened because a united Africa. Let me just conclude by saying this. I believe, I may be wrong about my statistics, that nearly 40% of the United States dollars circulates outside of the continent of Africa because the dollar is a fiat currency. It is not backed necessarily by gold, it's fiat. Today, if Africa were to choose that we are de-dollarizing our transactions, you can imagine what will happen to the United States dollars if we de-dollarize. If we de-dollarize transactions in oil and other things. So when you want to de-dollarize, they will come on you like a ton of bricks. And that is why it is important that we go as Africa. If you try to de-dollarize like Zimbabwe, sanctions. But if we are one united Africa, even if you had sanctions against us, we will survive. So efforts are being made. And once again, as I said, some of these initiatives can now be taken forward by way of engaging beyond this conversation and creating the linkages so that people begin to put their money where their words are. Good things are happening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Professor Lumumba. There are so many questions, and I know that you have a time constraint, but I would like to ask you, if it's okay for those folks who have not been able to ask questions, for us to put them together and send them to your office so that we can distribute the answers to those folks and probably to everyone who is on the call. At this time, I would like to ask Helena if she has any last words to offer the forum before we move into the finale, because we do have a great finale. So Helena, I'll give the room to you.
Thank you very much, Cleo. Thank you very much, Professor Lumumba, for the deep clarification about the problems and the riches of our continent. And thank you all participants. I know Professor Lumumba has another event to attend, and I thank everyone for the participation. And we are headed to the end of our program. That's all I can say. I know there are I see a lot of questions here because everybody is interested to talk about the motherland, which is very encouraging for us, especially promoting the riches of the motherland, and for us personally, my company, who is promoting Africa's culture and tradition. Even though we would have loved to discuss more, we have to leave the rest of our time for the finale. And I thank everyone, especially Professor Lumumba. Thank you so much for your time, and we will look forward for more events like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and have a good day. It is evening in this part of the world.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Lumumba.
Let's remain in touch outside of this.
Wonderful.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
stay safe.
Ambassador Hunt is still here with us from last week's keynote. So we welcome you again, and we are happy that you are still here with us. So at this point, what I'd like to share with the forum is that as a travel agent, CNG Global Connections Travel, we encourage folks to go back to the motherland. It's it's what we do. We take groups to different parts of the world. And in 2016, we took a group of travelers to South Africa and Zimbabwe. And I'd just like to have you witness the video of what we did while we were there, at least some of what we did. And I'll ask Leonette to play that video right now before we get into our finale.
Indoda izungeleza umuzi wami ebusuku ngilele awunami ngizoyithola ebusuku ilele. Indoda izungeleza umuzi wami ebusuku ngilele awunami ngizoyiqeda ngomkhonto ilele. Nankamazemula amazemula amazemula nankamazemula aqeda bataba. 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 Ngihlushwa indoda emnyama izungeleza umuzi wami, nami ngizoyithenga imfene. Ngihlushwa indoda emnyama izungeleza umuzi wami, nami ngizoyithenga imfene. Nankamazemula amazemula amazemula nankamazemula aqeda bataba. Nankamazemula amazemula amazemula nankamazemula aqeda bataba. Indoda izungeleza umuzi wami ebusuku ngilele awunami ngizoyithola ebusuku ilele. muzi wami ebusuku ngilele awunami ngizoyiqeda ngomkhonto ilele.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It actually brings back some warm memories, and actually I was a little bit emotional watching the video again. But I just wanted to make you all know that there is opportunities for you to go back to the motherland and experience the joys of actually being in the motherland. Those of our guests who were there up to this day, they say it was one of the best vacations ever. So as we move into the last part of our conference, I just want to take this moment to thank you all again for taking time today to share in what has been for the last couple of weeks. Well, it was 1 week, last week, Saturday and today, a very educational time, a time of re-educating and asserting ourselves in where we need to be when it comes to the diaspora connecting with the motherland. So now I'd like to ask Leonette to share the video, unless Helena has any final words for the forum. I don't know whether she has any final thoughts. For me, I just want to say thank you all. CNG Global Connections, thanks you for taking time and for asking us to collaborate with you. Dr. Hunt, you're with us still, and again, thank you for your presentation last week as a keynote speaker. And we will now move into the final of this wonderful week of education, unless Helena has anything else to offer us.
Thank you, Cleo. Thank you very much. It has been a wonderful experience. And I thank Ambassador Hunt to join us today again, as well as our keynote speaker, Professor Patrick Lumumba. I don't have much to say, but Chase the Dream plans to hold consecutive educational conferences like this in the coming month, and to exchange idea and learn about the Afrocentric world and unite Africa's people from all corners and discuss various topics in the future. I thank everyone who has been present today and last week, and united we'll be strong and make a stronger Afrocentric world that includes all of us in Africa and the Caribbean and anybody of Afrocentric origin and the world. Peace to us all. Thank you so much. Let's proceed to the closing of our program. Thank you, Cleo.
Thank you. Thank you all. It has been wonderful.
Come on, let's give them a big round. Africa! Yes, Africa. Beautiful Africa. Africa, the one and only Mama Africa.
Cleo, are you there? Okay, our moderator, can you hear me, everyone?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you for joining us again, and we'll have similar events in the future on various topics. I think Cleo lost her connection, but it's all right. We already had our finale, and thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed everything.
Yes.
And we will see you. We'll notify you. We will have similar events coming up on various topips.
Thank you, everybody.
Regarding Africa.
Thank
you
you
so much, and have a great weekend.
And don't forget to share.
Sure.
Share this event.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.